One of my favorite mechanics in a gacha game is character alt releases, wherein an existing unit puts on a new change of clothes, practically a new skin, that also comes with a new set of abilities, maybe a new class or weapon, or even a new rarity. The implementation of such a system can be notoriously hit or miss. Some games do it tastefully by improving on outdated characters to make them relevant in the meta again, while others, let's just say they make it a cheap excuse to pump out the same character over and over again just to drive up sales. It's a fine line between a welcome addition to the game and a predatory cash grab to milk the player base for more money. I'm definitely not referring to a specific game, nope. Thankfully, Honkai Star Rail is the former, since version 3.0 they had 5 new character alts, one for Dan Heng, several for Trailblazer, one for March, one for Herda, and one for Tingyun, with all of them having excellent reception during the respective times they came out, especially considering 4 of them were of different elements and paths. Genshin Impact has a bunch of characters who are known for their missed potential, either for poorly thought out designs, not standing the test of time that well, or some other reason. Despite the game being out for over 4 years, we haven't received a single alternate version of a character yet, with the obvious exception of Traveler. So for today, I wanted to make a video on 5 characters who desperately could use an alternate version. Granted, there are many more than just 5. Before so, I want to talk about a new game. One of the best animes of all time is going full gacha mode, and it's Haikyuu. They're releasing a new mobile game called Haikyuu Fly High, which will be playable on iOS and Android. It's going to be a faithful recreation of the anime series, including all the storylines and scenes remastered and recreated into a video game setting. Full 3D visuals, voice acting from the original seiyus, and the complete volleyball experience. You build up and train your players to make the best team you can come up with, each character possessing their own attributes and strengths for you to mix and match with, and you can recreate signature moves of Haikyuu's characters through ultimate skill animations that literally integrate the animations from anime into the game. On that note, they even showcase dual cutscenes with 2 characters, Hinata and Kageyama's quick attack being one such example. The mechanics and visuals have been fine-tuned to give you as responsive and immersive of an experience possible, making it so you can feel each and every bump, set, and spike. Outside of the court, you can engage in a variety of activities like training-based construction, trivia challenges, and many other mini-games to look into. Everything in this game has been fully licensed by the Haikyuu franchise, so if you're a big fan of the series, be sure to check it out using my link in the description below. Pre-registering will get you 25 pulls and 800 diamonds to start with. Thanks again to Haikyuu Fly High for sponsoring the video, but for now, back on topic. First character, and quite possibly the one who 99% of players agree is most deserving of one, we have Ningguang. Releasing Ningguang, the de facto leading authority of an entire godforsaken sovereign nation, as a 4-star character is the biggest federal transgression in the entire game. There's no established rule saying people in positions of power have to be 5 stars, but there has been a consistent correlation between prominent figures of the story having a higher rarity. To my knowledge, Ningguang is the only one in such a position who is a 4-star. The big figures of Mondstadt, Jin, Diluc, Venti, all 5 stars. Inazuma, we have Ayaka, Ayato, Shogun, Yaemiko, Kokomi, all 5 stars. Sumeru, we have Nahida, Alhaitham, Sino, 5 stars. Fontaine, we have Neuvillette, Verena, Clarence, Navia, 5 stars. Why is Ningguang the only character with organizational influence or political pull who isn't a 5-star? What's even more infuriating is that she's clearly demonstrated the ability to hold her own in combat. She's not just a figurehead who needs to be protected. Kuting established herself as a very hands-on Qixing, evidenced by her paying less attention to the politics side of things in favor of letting Ningguang take care of that. But that doesn't mean the latter is helpless, far from it. She can summon weaponry and then remotely use them to her advantage, which we can also observe by her 4-star version, in which she throws a bunch of gemstones and rocks around. Based on this, her 5-star version can build on that by allowing her to control more structures. A few weeks ago, I made a video talking about geoconstructs and how one way they could have been weaponized is with a geo character who can use them as ammunition. That ties nicely with Ningguang's playstyle of throwing gemstones around, only this time she can maybe throw geoconstructs. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, we'd have a 5-star version of a character who emphatically deserves it, and she can also potentially bring back the Mono Geo team. Or technically, if we want to kill 3 birds with 1 stone, a Mono Geo team centered around construct usage would make Geo Traveler the best support for it, as they can spawn 2 boulders. Zhongli can summon 2 pillars, but he would need C1 for that. Now there is a minor stumbling block in that only a maximum of 3 Geo constructs can be allowed on field. But assuming a theoretical 5-star Ningguang came out, Hoyo could always increase that limit to like 5 and maybe retroactively make Geode stalls count as Geo constructs. Alternatively, seeing as she's more known for her intellect, ingenuity, and influence, they can make the new Ningguang a Geo support instead, maybe increasing the entire party's damage for every Geo construct on the field. Arbitrarily speaking, we can say 30% for each, up to a cap of 90. This would make her stronger than Verena, but only in Geo teams, which is the idea. Exclusive supports should have the ability to outperform general supports, but only in a select niche. On that note, given elements carry far more canonical significance in Genshin than elements in HSR, we'll probably have to keep them in the same element, but they can always turn a DPS into a support or support to DPS or what have you. Next character I want to talk about is Albedo. It's true that Albedo is already a 5-star character, but most of the time, it doesn't even feel like he is one. I don't think it's too controversial of a statement that following the advent of Hinotori, Albedo might be in contention for one of the least relevant 5-star characters in the game, having basically no meta-performing team where he's best in slot. Pragmatically, he's in desperate need of a touch-up, notably some kind of specialty, as his jack-of-all-trades moveset is not really doing him any favors. Story-wise, a lot was lampshaded about the guy during the 2 Dragonspine events we had with him. For starters, he's not human, he's an alchemical being, basically a homunculus who was created by the same person who made Durin, that evil dragon that tried to explode Mondstadt but was eventually manhandled by Dvalin and then buried into the mountain of Dragonspine. We know that Gold, the creator of both of them, has incredible power to be able to make them, especially due to her connection to Khaenri'ah and the Hexen Circle, and Albedo makes no effort to hide the foreshadowing that there might be something really dangerous about him. He even went as far as to say, and I quote, "If one day I lose control, destroy Mondstadt, destroy everything, can I rely on you to stop me?" Even Dainsleif is cautious of Albedo, saying that if he were to make a wrong move, Dane would have to do something about it. Venti himself mentions how Albedo is looking kinda sus, so there's a ton of narrative significance to Albedo's supposed potential power. And then they completely forgot about it. Unlike Ningguang, I'm not entirely sure how I would theorize our hypothetical new Albedo. He has a ton of latent power and is tied to the Abyss, whether he knows it or not, and judging by how Durin was a potential world calamity for an entire nation, there could be wildly different ideas on what direction he could take. On one hand, we can maybe expand on Albedo's affinity for art and alchemy by having him pull a Scribblenauts, summoning drawings to attack enemies alongside him, not unlike how Chiori does with her dolls. Perhaps he can channel more of his alchemy into battle, whatever form that would take. I think most would imagine him to be a support than a DPS character. That being said, there's one other direction we can take, the Dainsleif route. We all know Dane does not channel one of the 7 elements, probably some kind of abyssal element that Genshin might release in the future. Albedo could also potentially carry that property, doing some crazy shit, which opens up a whole new can of worms. I'm not the most acquainted with the game's lore compared to Minsleif or Ashikai, so maybe they can look more into what that might entail than me. But I'm definitely more interested in seeing this version of Albedo than the artist one. Speaking of Abyss, Kaeya, my boy, my gigachat, my gluteus maximus deprived chiseled Adonis. This man needs a 5-star version stat. To clarify, Kaeya is not a member of the Abyss, but he has ties to Khaenri'ah, that much is certain. I do remember reading somewhere saying he's the long-lost crown prince of Khaenri'ah, but I can't recall if that was confirmed or just a theory. Whether he has some kind of incredible power and whatnot like Dane, or if he's just a regular guy who happens to be royalty, is also something I'm not qualified to speak on. We know that from what Genshin has stated explicitly, Kaeya and Diluc are on par with each other in strength, and Diluc is known to throw hands, so we know that Kaeya is definitely like top tier based on what mortal humans are capable of, but maybe not much higher than that. Again, I'm not too versed on Genshin's lore, this is just meant to be in good fun. That being said, I do think of the 3 starter units, Kaeya has the most potential to get a 5-star version. He's the only Favonius captain we know of that leads a unit meant for combat, and there's just way too much going on behind the scenes for there to not be an incentive to make him a worthwhile candidate for this hypothetical. As for what form he would entail, the few people remaining who still use him primarily use him as a quick swap sub DPS for cryo application, but all points of his background point to him being a much more attack-centric unit. I also think that when you account for his A1 passive, C2 and C4, Kaeya was intended to be a self-sufficient character, someone who can battle for long periods of time and take care of himself. We're only using him as a sub-DPS because he's not strong enough to be your main attacker, but 5-star Kaeya could be. We don't really have a cryo character who's more about personal DPS than reactions, which in my opinion is one of the reasons why the element is struggling so much. The performance of cryo is contingent on reactions that are actively being neglected or pushed down, so Lali hasn't been doing any favors in that regard. Since then, there's been a big increase in personal DPS units like Arlecchino, Neuvillette, Mulanni, Chaska, Mavuika, and so on. While they can and often do like to make use of reactions, their base power gets most of the attention. A cryo DPS with a similar baseline would be great, and I think Kaeya could fit that mark. It most likely won't happen, but one can dream. What form would that take though? There was enough source material for me to theorize it here for Ningguang and Albedo, but not so much for Kaeya. He's strong, yes, but to my knowledge he doesn't have any feats of great magic, and though he is from Khaenri'ah, we don't see anything yet that hints at some unimaginable power. Although I've heard fan theories that he might be a human Cryo Abyss mage owing to his elemental burst being almost identical to the one Cryo Abyss attack where a ring of ice goes around him. But that might just be coincidence. Maybe he would just be a strong cryo attacker and not much more than that. If that were the case, maybe he can apply a super freeze that can work on bosses or something. Next character is going to be Miss One Punch Maid. I know, another Mustang character and another Geo character. Can you blame me though? The element has a lot of wasted potential. I have a soft spot for Noelle though. She was the reason I wanted to make this video actually. A running gag throughout the Genshin community is how comically overpowered Noelle is despite being a Favonius knight in training. There are tons of Reddit posts asking why Noelle is not a knight even though she's very dutiful, has a vision, and can fight with the strength of 10 men. A knight and a main all in one. I did chuckle a bit when I found out the reason why. For those who don't know, they're intentionally not letting her become a knight out of fear that if they do, she will literally kill herself due to lacking a sense of self-preservation, and that she will work herself to death by taking on more duties and jobs than she can handle. She also has a problematic habit of wanting to solo everything so as not to inconvenience anyone, which ironically results in her being an inconvenience anyway. For example, there was one story where Noelle went to Dragonspine by herself on a search and rescue mission, then when she came back, she was basically passed out in bed for days with a life-threatening fever caused by hypothermia, dehydration, and hunger. She's too best girl that it poses a tangible threat to her health and safety. So to prevent that, they just make her do stuff like dust the furniture or sweep the floors or do menial busy work for her own good. However, I still hold out copium that she will one day become an official knight, and if she does, I hope she becomes a 5-star character. Noelle is overpowered as hell. One of her character stories mentions that she lifted an entire bookcase with the books in it with one hand to help Lisa pick up a device she dropped under it. We know she's strong, really strong. Not only that, but her kit reflects her personality, being the most one-woman army character in the entire game. Shields, heals, damage, she can do everything. The description of how she got her vision mentions that she wants to be everywhere at once, so for her 5-star version I honestly think they can make her just a general attacker. Perhaps a bit bland considering I said the same for Kaeya, but Noelle is even more self-sufficient than he is. Building off her reckless lack of self-preservation, maybe they can add a mechanic where the longer Noelle stays on field to attack, the stronger she gets, but the more her HP begins to deplete. Countless times they emphasized their total disregard for her own limits. They could design her elemental burst to make an A-ramping DPS buff like Yelan's dice, except it can ramp up for a much longer period of time, but after reaching a certain point, it becomes hazardous to keep her on field. I always thought it would be funny to have a character who continuously loses HP, making it so you have to be very conscious about how long they attack for, and then flat out ignoring it by giving them a bunch of healing. Considering Noelle got immensely sick and the entire Knights of Favonius crew lost sleep worrying about her, maybe a funny way you can build 5-star Noelle would be a party of herself, and then 3 healers, and then intentionally run the clock on herself buff to make her do like 1,000,000 damage per hit, but lose 10,000 HP per second. Please Hoyo, just give us the official Knight Noelle, I beg you. Last character is gonna be Child. You know where this is going. Give us Electro Delusion Child, and by extension give us Foul Legacy Child. Compared to the other 4, current Child is still a very solid character, and his international team has stood the test of time pretty well. But ever since we saw him from day 1, it's a shame that we only ever see Delusion Child and Foul Legacy in cutscenes, never letting us tap into that side of him despite having been around since practically the beginning of the game. Foul Legacy transformation enables him to combine both Hydro and Electro at the same time to use them together, which obviously requires a whole new discussion on what a character might be able to do. But in my video on Delusions, I talked about how there could be a possibility that we'll have characters in the future who could switch between 2 elements, maybe some of the Harbingers. If that were the case, Child definitely needs an alternate version where we get to play with this Electro one. Seeing as Hydro Child plays more into Vaporize, Electro Child could play more into Electro Charge or something, paying homage to his original Hydro element. Contrasting from previous characters who would have to be separate new releases, I think Child could potentially benefit the most from being a form changer unit, as in take the Trailblazer March approach where you can switch between Hydro Child and Electro Child whenever you want. Although I don't know how well that will be received considering a 5-star form changer effectively gives you 2 characters for the price of 1. It works for March and Trailblazer because they're free, but I don't know if people will be too happy about a form changer being locked behind a 5-star that you have to pull for. So maybe to keep things consistent, they should just release Electro Child as a different character. Canonically in HSR, you can play both Tingyun and Fugue in the same party, or Herda and Madame Herda, or Danheng and Lunai Danheng. So I guess it wouldn't be too out of place to have Hydro and Electro Child in the same party, ? In any case, this is one character where you don't even have to theorize an idea for. It's literally staring us right in the face. However, I don't think it would be wise to just copy-paste this kit but make an Electro, since even though experientially it wouldn't be that bad, it would also make him the most lame character to pull for, so they would have to do something more innovative. Regardless, Electro Child is definitely on the list for characters that need to come out. Anyway, those are the 5 choices I have for today. Again, there are more we can come up with, like a new version for maybe Klee when she grows up, although that might just be Alice, or maybe one for Lisa when she stops being lazy. I think Mostat as a whole needs buffs considering we haven't gotten a new Mostat character since 1.6. But what do you guys think about the 5 I chose and the ideas I made? Do you like or dislike them? Let me know in the comments down below. That's all for today, so if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter @Vars, join my Discord server, and why not check out my discussions on the Harbingers and Delusions if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.